Hello YouTube frogs, welcome back to another complete guide, this time covering the Cryo Archer that everyone will have by 2.2, even if you don't want her. Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. We'll be taking a look at 3-star, 4-star, 5-star weapon choices, going over her talents and explaining the benefits of Cryo Burst DPS over aiming for her auto infusion, skipping her non-existent constellations, artifact choices, team compositions, and showcasing her in the current abyss. Alright, let's get into it. Everything will be timestamped for your convenience as usual. Feel free to skip around for what you need. But before we begin, I'm excited to introduce you to the sponsor of this video, Ragnarok Origin. Enter a fantasy open world and discover mysterious, fun, and evil secrets hidden in this magical RPG adventure. Customize your gear to match your playstyle, and join a group of extraordinary heroes to discover the plentiful secrets of the land of Rune Midgards. Join the Ragnarok community in unique raids, challenges, and stories. There's no better time to pre-register and prepare to start your adventure than right now using the link in the description below. The pre-register event is currently ongoing, and there are tons of cool prizes to be won. The grand launch is coming soon, and you won't want to miss it. And back to the video. So, my current Aloy is running my standard for guides and showcases. She's level 80 out of 80, Constellation 0, with level 6 talents. We'll be running a mixture of Blizzard Noblesse with standard DPS main stats, attack, cryo damage, and crit rate. Brief pause here for my current artifacts. So, for weapons that run crit rate, I may change to a crit damage mask. The weapon section will be simplified though. Here's a glimpse at her general stats. Her attack will vary depending on the weapon. Crit rate will be maintained around 70%. Crit damage will be 140% or higher depending on the weapon again. And recharge will stabilize at about 115%. So, for Aloy's talents, the only complication comes with her elemental skill coil status. Normal attack and burst are very straightforward, so let's cover those first. Normal attack, a 4-hit string, average multipliers, with the first hit being a double shot. Slightly lower than Fischl's multipliers, about 5%, and 33% lower than Yoimiya's. Numbers are compared at level 6. Elemental burst, 40 energy AoE nuke on a 12-second cooldown. Decent multiplier of 503% at level 6, especially considering she can reverse melt. In my opinion, the star of her kit, even if it's the simplest part. Now, onto the elemental skill. So first, she throws a freeze bomb. This grants 1 coil stack. Second, it explodes, leaving 6 chill water bomblets that also each grant 1 coil stack on explosion. 1 coil stack per 0.1 second, which means that grouping them with someone like Kazo or Sucrose potentially only grants 1 stack. Third, at 4 stacks, she enters a phase called Rushing Ice. You can tell when Rushing Ice is active, even when she's not on the field, because there will be an aura around the active character. This ability grants a large sum of 5 cryo orbs at the expense of a 20-second cooldown. This is longer than her burst cooldown, which is only 12 seconds. So these 5 cryo orbs, plus teammate abilities, are typically self-sustaining for Aloy's burst with minimal recharge. Each coil stack also grants a slight increase in normal attack damage and decreases hit enemies' attack. At max stacks with Rushing Ice, the normal attack damage is capped at a significant boost, 38.5% at level 6. Adding in her Ascension 1 passive, her and her teammate's attack is slightly increased for 10 seconds every time she gains a single coil stack. The 8% teammate buff is pretty small, translates to on average a 4% damage boost. And then Ascension 4 passive. When she's in 4-stack mode, she gains increased stacking cryo damage 3.5% per second, up to 35%, similar to Yoimiya's A1, Tricks of the Troublemaker. However, for Aloy, the 35% only exists for 1 auto, since this buff expires when her Rushing Ice expires, which is a 10-second duration. Also, this buff is counted by time, not by the number of autos that she hits. And finally, most importantly, her unique talent allows you to scavenge Timmy's pigeons with anyone as long as Aloy is in the party. For leveling priority, Elemental Burst for her easiest damage access, then Elemental Skill and Normal Attack at your leisure, depending on how you like to play her. I prefer a burst-based playstyle, so if I were investing into higher than level 6, I'd run 6-8-8. So, both of her passive talents, A1 and A4, are focused around her elemental skill and increasing her damage during her cryo-infused state. For her playstyle, though the depth of her kit is all in her cryo auto-infusion from coil stacks, in my opinion, playing around her burst availability every 12 seconds is the simplest and easiest way to gain mileage from her multipliers. Reverse melting or not, I'd recommend leading with skill first, then burst, while the skill particles travel to you. With a typical Bennett burst setup, she can double reverse melt with skill into burst. This also benefits passives like Windbloom Ode. If using Sacrificial Bow, skill into burst into skill, and then normal attack when the opportunity arises. Her coil stacks last for 30 seconds, so when your other party members have exhausted their skills and you need some filler time, she's typically close to Rushing Ice and can auto during this phase for additional minor DPS. Beware though, her 4 coil stack infusion can activate even when she's not on the field, so in certain situations, her cryo infusion can activate and expire before you notice it. For general coil stack gain, autopiloting with the elemental skill into letting 1 to 2 bomblets explode, into grouping with a Nemo for additional 1 to 2 stacks, should equal about 4 stacks. There's RNG though, with letting 2 bomblets explode naturally and during grouping, which is why I prefer to just focus on spamming burst. You can see here with bad RNG I can only get 3 coil stacks, but with good RNG I can get 4 coil stacks. So with Sacrificial Bow, skill into burst into skill, into 1 bomblet guaranteed to explode naturally from this, into grouping with a Nemo is guaranteed to grant you 4 stacks of Rushing Ice. So with all this in mind, I recommend prioritizing her burst uptime over being consistently active with her coil stacks. So that brings us to her weapon comparisons. This section is going to be simplified and honed in on weapons that I would recommend for her. 2 to 4 weapons for each category: burst DPS, normal attack, and mixed damage. You'll see what I mean. So for a burst only playstyle, ignoring her auto infusion, we'll be focusing on her skill and burst damage. We have 4 weapons to demo here: 3-star Raven Bow, 4-star Stringless, 4-star Sacrificial, and 4-star Favonius. Now, 4-star Alley Hunter is also great for a burst only playstyle, but I'm not going to be demoing this weapon because if you're investing in Aloy, low chance that you have this lying around since it was only available for a short time prior to 2.0. For each of these weapons, we will demo a no melt version and a melt version. Now, for her normal attack and fusion comparison, it'll be simplified to just the 4-star Hamayumi and the 4-star Rust, so you guys can see the mid-investment cap damage for auto infusion. And then finally, for mixed damage, this will demo all damage, skill, burst, and auto infusion. We have 4-star Windbloom Ode here as a default comparison weapon, 5-star Skyward Harp, and 5-star Polar Star. The artifacts that I'll be running are 2 Blizzard and 2 Noblesse for all the demos, including the normal attack and fusion. And as a friendly reminder, I will be using crit rate food to make testing easier for myself. Damage numbers will not be inflated, this is purely to save time. All final damage numbers will be compared as fully crit numbers. Alright, let's cool down the Pyro Regisvine. Alright, first up for burst only weapons, we have the Raven Bow. It's a budget 3-star option, primarily optimized for the melt damage with its passive against Pyro and its Elemental Mastery secondary stat. Next, 4-star Stringless, same idea as Raven Bow, maximizing damage for the skill and burst damage here, and providing Elemental Mastery secondary stat. Then we have both the Sacrificial Bow and the Favonius Bow. These are mainly utility-based bows that nearly guarantee burst uptime. Less focus on damage here with the lower base attack, no elemental mastery, and no additional passive damage. Focus more on the recharge and utility capability. So, it can easily be seen that Raven Bow and Stringless shine on Reverse Melt. Without Bennett buff, it's a quick 50 to 60,000 Reverse Melt nuke and takes up 2 seconds of on-field time. With the ability to double Reverse Melt on the skill into burst, these are viable swap-in options for quick nuke damage. Now for the utility weapons, Sacrificial is a perfect choice for cryo battery compositions. Double skill usage guarantees 10 cryo energy orbs and only takes up 2 to 3 seconds of field time. Favonius Warbow is also a great choice for general team utility. This weapon also nearly guarantees Aloy's personal burst uptime with its secondary stat, recharge, and low burst energy cost. You can see in the demo with just an EQ and the passive energy recharge stat, I have my burst back up. Alright, next on to the auto infusion weapons, beginning with the Hamayumi, the craftable option. The passive will be active for this demo. Second, Rust. Standard normal attack steroid weapon that we all know, though for Aloy, the diminishing returns here from the 80% normal attack hurts a bit more since her Rushing Ice already provides at least 38% here at level 6. Okay, so for auto infusion weapons, the damage is about 25 to 40% the effectiveness of her burst. Her attack stream is about 2 to 3 seconds, and 3 full rotations can be done on average during her rushing ice. It's nice extra damage, but in my opinion, the on-field time is not really worth the sacrifice. And finally, mixed weapons. These weapons are mainly burst DPS focused with a touch of auto infusion. So first, the 4-star Windbloom Ode, which is a default baseline for mixed damage given that it was free from 1.4 and provides a mixture of attack from its passive and elemental mastery for reverse melt. Next, the two 5-star general crit options, Skyward Harp and Polar Star. Nothing much to say here. They're the best options for her if you want to take her out for a spin with these 5 stars. So, the Windbloom Ode gives the strongest depiction of General Aloy usage if using her as a mixed DPS. It has low auto infusion damage, but good reverse melt or general nuke damage. 5 stars take the cake for every category, which is to be expected, especially since mine are R590. Auto infusion with these weapons is decently strong due to their insane stat stick steroids. Skyward Harp is a perfect mixture of crit rate and crit damage, while the Polar Star is a massive crit rate stat stick while also providing skill and burst damage and additional attack from the stacks. So, for my general recommendations, I would primarily stick with maximizing reverse melt damage, and for specific team comps, value the orb generation from her skill. Weapons like Stringless, Windbloom, and Budget Raven Bow are perfect for reverse melt. They each provide some sort of elemental mastery secondary stat and have some way to benefit the skill and burst damage. Sacrificial is great for cryo battery like Ayaka freeze compositions. Favonius is great for generic reverse melt utility, and 5-star weapons are generally great for screenshot flexing. Alright, let's move on to artifact recommendations for Aloy. So, I would universally recommend 2 Blizzard and 2 Noblesse to bring out the best of her capabilities. Maximizes her burst damage here, and half of it is just strict cryo damage increase for her auto infusion, skill, and burst. If we want to commit to 4-piece options though, we have 4-piece Blizzard, perfect freeze Aloy build, great for any playstyle whether you want to do auto infusion or burst DPS, as long as it's freeze based. 4-piece Emblem, generic burst DPS, great even with minimal recharge. Even though Aloy's burst is only 40 energy cost, and typically you'd want to maximize the energy recharge with 4-piece Emblem, even with lower recharge, 4-piece Emblem still grants at least 25% burst damage, and grants a little bit of recharge on top of that. Then we have 4-piece Noblesse. It's a burst DPS build with a little bit of a team attack buff. And then 4-piece Lava Walker. This is reverse melt only type of build, and it's the same burst damage increase as a 2 Blizzard, 2 Noblesse. Only if you have it lying around, otherwise do the 2-2. And then 2-piece options besides Blizzard and Noblesse. So we have Gladiator, Shimenawa's for 18% attack, can 2-piece mix that anywhere. And then we have 2-piece Emblem for the generic 20% recharge. Nothing much to say with these 2-piece options. Try to aim for minimum 2-piece Blizzard and then focus on substats if you don't have 2 Noblesse. For main stats, standard DPS build, attack percent timepiece, cryo damage goblet, and a crit rate or crit damage mask. Prioritize whatever crit mask enables the closest 1-to-2 crit rate crit damage ratio. Most will opt for crit rate mask here. For the timepiece, she does not need energy recharge because her burst is only 40 energy cost and her skill grants an immense amount of cryo orbs. Okay, so if we want to build around Aloy, what should we focus on? In a team setting, I would recommend 2 different build paths. First is nuke based. Add her in as a standalone unit in a Bennett composition that needs a 4th. Primary role here is knocking a large AoE melt nuke every Bennett burst. No need to optimize the 12-second cooldown here, just follow Bennett's 15-second burst rotation. The second is utility based. Add her in as a cryo battery for freeze compositions like Ayaka or freeze Ganyu. Supporting Eula as a cryo battery is alright, but much less optimal than Diona, and not optimized for damage since Eula is a physical composition, not a freeze composition. If running her auto infusion style, force a freeze composition with 4 Blizzard set. Not to anyone's surprise here, Xingqiu would be a perfect fit, but I'm sure that he's overworked enough on other compositions, so this is a low priority composition. And generically, if you have team space on any of these pyro DPS compositions like Klee, Hu Tao, Yoimiya, Diluc, Xiangling, etc., she can plop in for that burst nuke damage. Generally, I would keep it pretty simple for Aloy compositions at that. Alright, let's showcase a melt and freeze comp around Aloy. We'll drop by Abyss 412 and see what it looks like tackling the first chamber of Nobushi and Pyro agents. She'll be using the Windbloom Ode for these showcases. Cue the music, Mr. Cope. And with that quick showcase complete, that about wraps up the core of Aloy's guide. With a very quick rotational burst and a high energy generating skill, Aloy offers decent nuke DPS and can double as a solid cryo battery. If this guide helped you understand Aloy a little better, consider liking the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel for more similar content. It's free and I'd really appreciate it. I also stream nearly every day on Twitch with a mixture of Mimi and cozy vibes. Link on screen in the description if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.